This writing workshop series is brought to you by the Center for Sacred Sciences in Eugene, Oregon. The center's mission is to teach the core truth shared by all the world's great mystics, to foster a new worldview based on that truth, and to support a community of practitioners who wish to discover that truth in their own experience. You can visit centerforsacredsciences.org for hundreds of audios, videos, and articles, as well as a calendar of events. And now, episode 4 of 4 of the Go As Nothing Writing Workshop Series with Mary Song.
Hi, I'm Mary Song. Greetings and welcome to episode 4 of our series. In a moment, we will repeat the writing prompt for today, but I wanted to mention a couple of things before we get started. One thing I want to point out about the practice that you see demonstrated here is that I often ask the writers to be playful, both with how they introduce themselves and how they answer the prompts creatively. I know from experience that sometimes we feel resistance when given this type of direction. I don't want to make up a new name. I don't want to make up a once upon a time story. This sort of thing. If you notice that coming up for you, just take note and see if you can trace that energy back. You might ask, well, why not write fiction? But generally, I suggest that you just note it and try the suggestions anyway. Also in episode 3, we brought up the tendency to want to be impressive, and we followed that with how no one needs to be impressive here. As you sit down to write, you may be burdened with the thought that it needs to be really good, really impressive. I want everyone to know how great I am. I want to be the best writer. I'm not willing to be ordinary or just one of the group. So these thoughts are burdens. If you let this need to be impressive drive you, this is from my own experience, my friends. If you let that drive you, you tend to block the natural flow of creativity and set yourself up for some sort of failure. Now imagine being free from that burden. And maybe some of you have experienced this already, just being present without being bogged down by how good you have to be. Trying to be impressive, I have found this out, takes up a whole lot of energy. And what if that energy were liberated? I'd say think it over, but I don't really want you to dwell on it. Instead, let's go now to the 4th and last episode of our Go As Nothing Writing Workshop series. Come, come, whoever you are, wanderer, worshiper, lover of leaving, it doesn't matter. Ours is not a caravan of despair. Come, even if you have broken your vow 100 times, come, come yet again. And that's from Rumi, the 13th century Persian poet. Greetings, everybody. I'm really happy to be with you here today. And welcome to everyone tuning in for our 4th and final episode of the Go As Nothing Writing Workshop. So these 4 episodes link together, and I hope that you've already seen our first 3 and are joining us for the 4th. It's okay to drop in on just this one, but I do recommend backing up and seeing the first 3 and coming forward. We have the same participants every time, and I hope that you, if you're tuning in with us, that you'll take the opportunity to try our writing prompts, both the ones we get outside and then read inside the session, and the ones we do live in session. Give that a try and just see what happens. There's no judgment here. There's no evaluating the writing. Is it good? Is it bad? That's not what this is about. It's about something else. So I'd like to jump into introductions. which will be experimental. I love to play, just like get the Play-Doh out and create Play-Doh special things and so on. And by the way, viewers, these participants never know what's coming. And so they're like on the spot being recorded. They have to say something right away. So it bypasses the thinking mind. Like, I want to do something really good and impress everyone. And it's like, boom, it's out there. And, you don't get to come back and do over. So anyway, for this introduction game, we will introduce ourselves all as the same being. And our name is Nobody at All. So each one of us will introduce ourselves as Nobody at All. And then we will say 3 things that arise in happiness. Can be very simple things. Very simple. So I'm stalling just a second or two for my participants. Okay, so I will start, and then we will begin with Deborah, and we'll go around the room, ending with Erin. So my name is Nobody at All, and happiness arises for kittens purring, for full moons, for people reaching out.
My name is Nobody at All. Happiness arises from ease, smiles, and love.
Mhm.
My name is Nobody at All. Happiness arises when I achieve small successes. Happiness arises when I eat delicious food. Happiness arises spontaneously.
And my name is Nobody at All. And happiness arises with the smell of my puppy dog, Pooja. Happiness arises with making and eating hot soup on a cold morning. And happiness arises when spacious presence comes at any moment.
My name is Nobody at All, and happiness arises when I see the smile of my beloved. Happiness arises when my dog is so excited in the morning to go out and take a walk. He just leaps in the air with joy. And happiness arises when I come up with something comes up with some idea that it wants to present and does it well, adequately.
My name is Nobody at All, and happiness arises when my cat jumps on my bed, even though he knows he's not supposed to. Happiness arises from forgiveness, and happiness arises from a day at the lake.
My name is Nobody at All, and happiness arises when everything is normal and nothing is needed, and just on its own.
Mm-hmm.
My name is Nobody at All, and happiness arises when the sun is shining, when the rain is falling, and when it's snowing.
My name is Nobody at All, And happiness arises. Happiness arises when we're here. Happiness arises because we love. And happiness arises without our permission.
Thank you so much, everyone. Will the real nobody at all please sit down? Joel used to play a little trick with us at the center about that. Would you all please sit down? And we'd all be seated already. Well, there was a point to that. But let me stick with what I have on my schedule for now. We're going to do a round of readings. And for those listening in, this is our fourth prompt. So they come, down a staircase or up a staircase or however you'd like to imagine that. And the instructions I gave on this particular one, move into the collective we as your imagination meets this last prompt. So again, I asked the participants not to think this over, to look at the prompt, start writing right away. Don't try to impress anyone or do-overs or all of that editing. Just let it fly out onto the page. Remember, there's no one to impress. There's no one to impress. Leap into the unknown of totality. I love that word, totality. So the prompt is, when our stories rose up with the ashes. Last time we had call 911, my stories are on fire. I loved it. What a great round that was. And now the stories are rising up with the ashes. So we'll have a round of reading. I will cut my microphone and we will bow between each person or each nobody at all. Okay? And we'll see how it goes.
When our stories rose up with the ashes and the air finally cleared, we reached for each other's hands and gripped them tightly. We were grateful to have each other for comfort. We formed a serpentine circle and closed in around the smoking ashes. I might have thought there would be some scraps of paper in the smoldering pile with still legible writing, something to remind us where we'd been, who we'd been, but nothing remained except a fine powder of gray dust and the merest hint of the heat that had once both pushed us away and tempted us closer, the heat that had taken us captive. And that's the thing. We were in captivity. As long as we grabbed at and clung to and pretended to own our stories, we were no better off than the prisoner for life moldering in a cold, musty cell. We weren't only no better off than that prisoner, we were that prisoner. We tried and tried to escape, but to no avail. We could barely move. Our bodies were made of stone. When we did manage to half-heartedly slip away from the jailer and run, our legs rooted to the ground. We tried to pull ourselves along by grabbing at the shrubs beside our path, but the branches only broke off in our hands. All the while, the searchers, the posse of captors coming to tackle us and drag us back to our cell, were getting closer. We could feel their hot breath on our necks. So we gave up. You win. Take us. We'll be good. We'll do what you want. Just don't be angry with us. Don't hurt us. We dreamed nightly of this escape and the chase and our inevitable recapture. We dreamed it for years on end, waking to our hearts racing and to the disappointment we know so well.
When our stories rose up with the ashes, we were completely surprised to find that we, or something we could still call we, was still here. Still in the stillness. Still as the stillness. The idea of we, however, became very muddled. It grew to encompass all that we could perceive and all that we could imagine as ourselves and as not ourselves. The multitudinous became oneness. The oneness remained multitudinous. How is, can, was, are such a perception possible? Possibility is out of the question. Question is answer. When our stories rose up with the ashes, the we as we knew us rose up as well. It rose, it remained. It looked from here below to here above and saw as if looking in a mirror. The distance remained imperceptible, null, an illusion. We laughed. We cried. We spoke. Who spoke? Speaking without words is the simplest. Being without other is the cleanest. Squeaky clean, without the squeak. When our stories rose up with the ashes, the relief was magnificent. How could something so small, a flame devouring fictions, a silencing of ideas and conceptions, be so large without taking up any space, while filling all that could be imagined?
When our stories rose up with the ashes, we were stunned, paralyzed in the mystery of love pouring out of our souls, dancing the dance of collapse that could not be changed in any way. We were being played, tuned up in the celestial orchestra. In this unburdened lightness, we knew it could only be her, fresh, pure freedom descending upon us all at last. The ash of the burned up stories of our shared struggles and strife floated like snowflakes in a steep, still, silent, mountainous terrain to light upon us, to delight our senses, shower our hearts. This nameless essence expanded, softly flowing as she does, and a peace of unfathomable proportion, joy, and divine amusement took over, so surprisingly, and flesh dissolved. As one blessed grace puddle of precious love, each of the we now reappearing spectacularly colorful, never to be the same again, yet utterly identical.
When our stories rose up with the ashes, we were drawn to one another. As we held hands in a circle and watched the stories flicker and disperse, we felt such camaraderie and relief, really. We were finally together in deep rest, and all was well. We were one and could not see any separation dividing us. We could see that the stories were islands of energy that had kept us from total intimacy. To the degree that we could release our story, to that degree we allowed intimacy and play. We also realized that the stories were part of the expression of life energy and to not deny them, but to acknowledge their play. In seeing them go up in flames, we saw their unsubstantiality, interesting as they were. We left the circle appreciative that we could be safe with one another and ourselves because we knew a deeper truth.
When our stories rose up with the ashes, they manifested as a beautiful garden of pine and chaparral and wildflowers. After the lye had been mixed with ash to make soap, the rest had served as fertilizer. It glowed under moonlight on cold, starry nights and slowly fed the soil beneath it where seeds had lain dormant. Some seeds did not grow, but as chance had it, some did. Some grew into tall, beautiful things like 100-year-old western white pines and giant sequoia, and some popped up just long enough to feel the sun before quickly withering and dying from lack of water and being too sensitive to the cold at night. The soap, on the other hand, was overall a big success, the most popular scent being lemon verbena, which you would practically want to put in your mouth and bite down on like a buttery honeycomb. It smelled so good. They used to sell it down at the mill out the back door. People came from miles around to smell the mixture of freshly milled sawdust and lemon, rose, lavender, or rosemary vanilla mixed with ash. Ash was such a good medium for many things. Did you know, for example, that you could mix it into a mud with water and cover your whole body for a brilliant disguise in case you ever needed one? I don't recommend doing so in the middle of winter, but for a warm night in Africa, it can be quite nice. You just never know what will come up when you sit down to write sometimes.
When your stories rose up with the ashes, it was just one more step in the alchemical process. What burns is what was created. What was created was a reaction to what had previously been burnt. We know that no matter is truly ever destroyed or created. So, what are these stories? Distinctions, ever evolving, ever changing. New perspectives in new times, in new settings, creating new distinctions out of what already is, what already was. But nothing really ever going anywhere. All distinction, always new, always here and now. So your stories, you see, are really nothing more than this particular perspective's attempt to separate itself from what already is. To be separate is the belief being created. So as the stories smoke and ash rise, you will see that you are still aware of it. Awareness of never left. Where could it go after all? Awareness of never began. If so, when? Does awareness not dream? Is what awareness distinguishes not already complete without distinction? The story of I is the story that anything is actually coming or going. This is all already here. Everything is already complete. Nothing is actually needed. So the ephemeral story is all that really appears and disappears in this awareness of what already is. So what will you believe in? Your story created by distinguishing yourself from your environment, of the presence and power and awareness of being itself? The story cannot be primary to what it is a story of. So, as your awareness watches the fire take your stories into the air, and as your awareness sees them dissipate, where are you? Who are you? What is in awareness when you are liberated from all narrative? Welcome back. The Ouroboros feeds itself.
When our stories rose up with the ashes, we danced around the fire with gleeful, childish joy. What freedom we felt as those stories no longer bound us to our suffering, our attachments, our belief that we really did know the truth. As the flames burned brighter, more people joined and tossed their stories of love and sorrow into the fire. Soon there were hundreds, no, maybe thousands gathered round. Some stood in silence with tears dripping down their cheeks. Others whooped and hollered in their newfound freedom. All were welcome. As each story burned, the world grew lighter. Some people felt that release so deeply they crumbled to the ground sobbing. But even those soon rose to join the jubilation, smiles wide, eyes bright, breath free and easy. We never imagined what effect this would have, how it spread, a beautiful contagion that filled hearts with love. As the truth of freedom settled in our souls, we continued our celebration, twirling into the next moment.
When our stories rose up with the ashes, we were astounded, then in disbelief, and a little frightened and shocked. How could we know this was going to happen? Who told us? You may say this is the difference between knowing the path and walking the path, but it's just completely unexpected. The only things that are supposed to arise from ashes are the images of holiness, Jesus and the cross, rainbow feathers of phoenixes, the deathless, luminous essence of life. Not our stories of woe, of little old me, not I am unlovable, or how could they do this to me? And then we realized that we were being shaped, being molded, being worked, little bits at a time, a silk cloth over a mountain of samsara. We realized we had no choice in the burning and no choice in the rising up. And then the most shocking realization of all, we were being presented with the endless friends, opportunities, with the possibility that our stories arose for us, to be welcomed back, fed, clothed, and embraced. We didn't know that what burned was only burning itself, that it hid a burning essence, that what caught fire was nowhere, everywhere. And how can we help but smile and let those ambers soften again? Glow, heart, and laugh at the tragedy, at the irony of what I dearly miss and longingly yearn for. All at once ablaze in the fire once again. My precious little children, come home. You were only lost, not forgotten, and I love you.
Once again, another beautiful round of readings. I wonder if anyone here has a comment they want to make or an observation or something to share about this particular reading, something maybe that came up for you when writing or in listening. Does anybody have a comment? Sorry. Yeah, go ahead, Wayne.
I think I'll go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead. Jump in there. Be bold.
My experience came in retrospect after the writing had completed and perhaps a couple of hours later. And then a big old seed of doubt crept right in here. And it asked the question, what was the source of that sequence of words, let's say? Well, was it really an inspired collection coming from elsewhere, let's say, or something? Or was it just regurgitation of things I had assembled over the years.
Mhm.
So I don't know if you have any comments about that at all. Or
Does anyone identify with that? Yeah. Big old doubt comes visiting you like a bird nesting in your head, inside your head. Yeah, I mean, the mind can entertain itself with a lot of these kind of questions. In don't know mind, no bother. In don't know mind, we don't know. And that's actually, we take ease with that. Nothing needs to be figured out. So, can I say exactly where those words come from? No, I don't know. That's fine with me. Is that fine with you, Wayne, not to know?
yes, it is.
But the mind would like to take up a lot of the time and space, which keeps us from being in the present moment, by the way. Nothing wrong with being intellectual and philosophical and trying to define things, but to what end, we might ask. Deborah, go ahead.
Well, since you brought it up, I have a confession to make. I did this prompt twice.
Okay.
Because the first time it wasn't about I'm not going to impress anybody. It's not good enough writing. I mean, it just did it. I was already anxious and not feeling good. And I just felt not good. And the writing wasn't coming from that. It wasn't satisfying at all to me. But
yeah.
I wrote about that exact thing that you just said, because I have wondered this before about my other writing, and some of it's fiction and some of it's not. And I have this one, I wonder how much, like, sometimes it doesn't feel like I'm really, like it's my writing. I'm just assembling it from bits. I read a lot of fiction, and I feel like sometimes when I write it, I'm just imitating what I've read, the kind of styles I like, and word choices. So I do have that doubt of I'm a mimicker. So I wonder
what?
if
Say that again.
I'm a mimicker.
Mimicker. Yeah.
In a lot of situations. So anyway.
Yeah. I can say this, that for me, I'm infused with things that I read, truth talkers I listen to. It comes into my field of consciousness. I listen to a spiritual teacher, I read a book or whatever, and it becomes part of me. It's infused in my being. And so for me, the journey has been to trust that urge to communicate, in writing, in speaking, and teaching, and to trust that what comes forward will be led by compassion. So I'm infused with everything that I experience and open to. Yeah, Jed, go ahead.
I would just add, because I think that what Wayne and Deborah are saying is important. Like that, in my opinion, I wouldn't expect anything I do or say to be original, because 100% of what we think of as ourself is constructed. 100%. There isn't any aspect of our language that is original. And so every single word is a prejudice. Every single word already has a meaning. Otherwise, it would just be a sound and not a word, right? I mean, you would just go, rabbit. That's not a word if no one agrees.
I heard rabbit.
Well, and so that's my point.
Yes.
Is that you cannot escape previous conditioning or prejudice when you're using language. Having said that, Wayne's writing made me think of the Tao Te Ching. Like there was so much duality in it. I find that I found it very satisfying to listen to. And I wanted to make comments about everybody's pieces as I was listening to them, but luckily I forget things easy.
You know, it's funny how I've seen this happen so often that someone tells us or me of the struggle they had. They didn't like this piece and that, or whatever, it didn't feel good. And they read it to us and we're like, wow, you know, and it goes into our hearts and souls. And we don't read it as a struggle for the writer. We're getting something from it. And that's service, my friends, when we put that creative energy out. No matter, you know, I talked about this yesterday, we have a doubt arise or an aversion arise. And I recommended to meet those arisings with kindness. Nirja said, my old friend, when she was looking at that doubt. And to see what gem might be hidden there instead of like, get out of the road, I'm not going to do this ever again. Something like that. I saw one more hand. Yeah, Robin.
It was just really good for me to get in touch with how I was wanting to be good and perform and say something deep, especially with this group, say something that's going to make everybody go, wow. And I just totally let go of that in this piece. And I had so much more fun with it. It was just so nice to do that.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
that was a good place to arrive at.
Excellent. That's wonderful. And Nirja?
When I did my writing this morning, and when I finished it, I said out loud, "This is stupid," which isn't a word I use very often. It kind of surprised me that I felt that way. And then I just let it go, and, you know, but it arises, it's going to come up. And when I read it, it didn't sound stupid. So I don't know.
It's not stupid in the least. And by the way, you might ask yourself, who feels stupid? Who? I saw another hand go up. Shani?
Yes. I meet with a wonderful group of people occasionally, and we happened to meet last night, which seemed auspicious because I was able to process some of what's been coming up for me during this 4 days. And during the quiet time that preceded the check-ins, what came up for me was that this is going out on a limb for me to say this, and I don't know how it will be received, but that it's, for me, in a way, it's not the writing.
That's right.
That is important.
That's right.
It's not what's said. What became utterly essential to me was the process of opening it up and let it come out and not judge it and be a clear channel for whatever wants to come. And that said, I was listening to some of the comments about how beautiful it is, these expressions, and how they can be hopeful and this and that. And I think it's probably the whole circle, the whole spectrum of writing. And right now, what seems to be the most healing is to just be open, let it come, and don't judge it, and don't compare. You know, I feel like I have a style of writing that's very terse, very minimal, very, not very verbose, and not a lot of this sort of beautiful feeling that I feel like other people bring to it. And yet this is what is coming through this thing right here. So, I just can't say how much I appreciate this process of just really opening and letting.
Yeah.
And just really letting. That's it. That's it. No doubt, no story, no wish, no prepare, no judge, no, that has been sort of surrounding this girl forever and ever and ever since I flunked the 4th grade because I couldn't perform in front of the class. Yeah. So yes, performance anxiety is another piece of it. And it's, once sort of a core is hit, there's all these little tendrils that go out and all these other places that are affected because of that resonate on the tips of those pieces that, so
Beautiful.
enough said.
Beautiful. Thank you for that, Shani. At the end, I was going to say who has final comments, and that sounded like a very good wrap-up comment about this whole process. I feel the urge to say when the story drops, alignment happens. This has been my experience. Like right now, in this very moment, I feel complete alignment. Where is there room for self-doubt? Alignment. Do I have a script here? Or am I just speaking? I'm just speaking. I'm trusting because I know compassion. I'm trusting this is a movement of compassion, no doubt. Isn't that beautiful? No story. No story about how great I am or how poor I am as a teacher. Oh, that was a bad job. No. And that's just pure giving then, receiving, giving, allowing. You said opening and allowing. So beautiful. We'll come back around at the end when we're finished here and see if there are more comments to add to this. But I wanted to talk about why I named this Go As Nothing writing workshop. For many people, viewers, you may have never heard that. What? Go As Nothing. In fact, I Googled it to make sure no one else already had that title. Go As Nothing. And so this was given to me by my teacher, Joel, from the Center for Sacred Sciences, which is sponsoring our workshop here, by the way. And I want to read a true short story. It's about 300 words, so it'll be very quick. About this experience that I had with Joel. Now, my friends, I've been with Joel a long time. It's getting close to 30 years. So this happened 1994. Long time. So if you don't mind, I'll just read you this very brief story. I dreaded visiting my parents who lived in a small Midwestern town where I had grown up. Going there meant being cooped up with them for 10 days, and I feared their nagging and bad habits would drive me crazy. Concerned, I asked my spiritual teacher, Joel, for advice. What should I do? He said, go as nothing. He didn't say much more. He said, go as nothing. Without understanding his suggestion, I boarded the small plane and later landed in the Midwest. The words go as nothing kept playing through my mind. What did it mean? How could I be nothing with my judgmental family of origin? The words served as a meditation object, and every time I heard my parents speak, I listened silently and tolerated their humor. Midway through the 10 days, I felt calmer than usual as I helped around the house. Go as nothing, I chanted silently. Go as nothing. I felt more like a door open than a wall of resistance. With the beautiful spring weather, I offered to paint a patch on the side of the house that was peeling. I climbed up a ladder to the second story with a bucket of yellow paint. I looked down into the backyard and saw an elderly couple, my parents, sitting on an old carriage seat against the garage. I could hear them bickering back and forth, sitting close together, their hands touching. The image struck my mind, and I heard my teacher whisper, go as nothing. As nothing, I could observe my parents as they truly were and drop my old stories in which I judged them. and I worried that they didn't approve of me. In a state of bliss, I climbed down the ladder with an empty bucket. I moved through their world without judgment. On the last day of my visit, my father, who usually poked fun at anything that interested me, said, "You have graced this old place with your presence." Home from the trip, I bowed to Joel for the best advice I had ever received. By the way, my friends, my father passed away later that year, and I had the great good fortune to be with him in the final moments without judgment. So when I came back from that trip, I came back to the center, and Joel and I had a dialogue in front of everyone about what happened and how it unfolded. Again, I didn't know how to go as nothing, but I was willing to open to this possibility that I couldn't understand and just see what happened. Now, for everyone listening in, you can hear that audio dialogue between myself and Joel. Go to centerforsacredsciences.org. Under the Publications tab, go to Audio Online and look up Aspects of Practice, Go As Nothing, recorded May 29, 1994. Now, how can I go as nothing when I am something? This might be something arising in your mind, but I am something. How can I go as nothing? What you mean, like an empty bag or an empty box or something? That sounds really dull and boring to be nothing. So that's a question that I asked myself when Joel gave me this instruction, go as nothing. If I gave you that teaching, let's say you're anxious about visiting some relatives or something along this way, and I say, well, go as nothing. It's a lot like saying drop your story. A lot of teachers will say that, just drop your story. And you say, who are you to tell me to drop my story? You might say, but I am something. I'm hurt. I'm hostile. I'm disgusted. I'm disappointed. I'm disillusioned. I'm afraid. I'm worried. I'm agitated. I'm tired. I'm bored. I'm inhibited. That's who I am. You might say that to me. How can I go as nothing when I am bitter? I'm resentful. No one ever understands me when I go there. I'm something. Go as nothing, Joel told me. And a doorway opened. I didn't open the door, except maybe my willingness allowed it to be open. But it really feels like grace opens the door, not me. I don't think I could have gone back and made it happen again. You don't make it happen, but you make yourself available to the possibility. Now, I must say that this teaching is for a spiritual practitioner who's ready to hear it. It's not for everyone. I wouldn't stand out on the street corner yelling, go as nothing, go as nothing. Not everybody can hear that, nor should they race into a situation that's toxic or dangerous for them. I would not say that would be necessarily the teaching for you if you're not ready, or you need more cultivation or more practice first. But sometimes we know, it's not wise for me to go into that situation. You decide when you're ready for something like this. And one thing you can do is to practice, I'm going to go to the grocery store as nothing. What would that be like if you just went up and down the aisles chanting, go as nothing, to yourself? You don't have to draw attention. Or you could, Go as nothing. Go as nothing. You might see people. Are you judging them? That person is getting too close to me. Look at the food they're buying. Unhealthy. All that candy. Judging. Could I go as nothing? What would arise in the nothing space? My experience is compassion. That's just a word for what? It's an energy. You may have an energy identical and call it love or call it emptiness or whatever. So it's not that you have to learn what I'm saying. It's for yourself. What is arising for you? So think about that as a practice. I'm going to go put gas in the car, or I'm going to go to the post office. Post office is a good one. The line is long. The person's talking too long. Could I go as nothing, and what would that be like? So thank you, my friends, for listening to my story. Go as nothing. You know, when you get a teaching that is so profound, 1994, my goodness, it has continued to unfold for me. There have been times when I have felt agitated. And Nirja has turned to me, and I'm agitated, I'm worried. She'll say, go as nothing. This happened one time recently. And I was worried about something I had to do. She said, go as nothing. And it's like a trap door went, phew. And all the stories of worry and how the bad things that are going to happen if I go in, it went, whew. And I just presented myself to the situation without those stories. Did I make it happen? I'm not going to say the I who lives inside the story of I, inside that little nutshell, I didn't make it happen. I, in the greater sense that connects to all, didn't make it happen. It happens. Happening arises. Okay. In the end, we're going to have some time for comments, but I want to come back now to Mary Oliver, to this poem, Wild Geese. You know, it's a powerful poem, isn't it? Does everybody find it powerful? You do not have to be good. How we have longed for that. Maybe we have always thought we had to be good. We were told, you better be good or Santa Claus won't bring you what you want. I want something. We're supposed to want. And then if we're good, we get what we want. But Mary Oliver in Wild Geese says, you do not have to be good. Does she mean morally? Or does she mean you do not have to be good enough? She says, you do not have to be good. You do not have to walk on your knees for 100 miles through the desert repenting. You only have to let the soft animal of your body love what it loves. Tell me about despair, yours, and I will tell you mine. Meanwhile, the world goes on. Meanwhile, the sun and the clear pebbles of the rain are moving across the landscapes, over the prairies and the deep trees, the mountains and the rivers. Meanwhile, the wild geese, high in the clean blue air, are heading home again. Whoever you are, no matter how lonely, whoever you are, no matter how lonely, the world offers itself to your imagination, calls to you like the wild geese, harsh and exciting, over and over, announcing your place in the family of things. Thank you, Mary Oliver. So I would like to take that line, you do not have to be good. So we're heading in now to an in-session writing. I never like to call this in-class writing. I don't like to say class. I was a classroom teacher for so many years. This is not a classroom. This is something else. So we're going to have an in-session writing. I'm going to tinker with this first line. She says you do not have to be good. And I'd like to say you do not have to be someone. Or you do not have to become someone. So my participants here and those at home, I'd like you to take that either way. You do not have to be someone, or you do not have to become someone. Pick one of those two. And we're going to have, I always say 3 minutes, and it turns out to be a little bit more. Just my intuition says when to stop. So let's go ahead now. Pick one of those. You do not have to be someone, or you do not have to become someone. And away we go. You do not have to be you only have to let. And beginning to let that come to an end. And just give me a nod when you're all finished. Yep, everybody's done. All right. Very good. I can't wait to hear this. Again, I will mute my microphone. And let's not bow between each one. We'll just go one to the other.
You do not have to become someone. No one ever told me this before or after. I have been waiting all of this time to become someone because people said to me, when you grow up, you will be blank. But I never grew up because I thought when I became someone, that would mean I had grown up, that I had arrived. So I was waiting for the train of becoming to arrive while the train of being a grown-up was waiting for the train of becoming, and no one moved. And I did not grow because I was waiting for something to happen that was waiting for something else to happen. You do not have to be. No one ever told me this. You only have to let what is be, and you are not is. I do not know what is behind the curtain of not being and not becoming, but I know the curtain is threadbare and tattered and does nothing at all except hide the view.
You do not have to become someone. This becoming is unstoppable. There's really no action you can take to speed it up, slow it down, change its direction. Sure, practice makes perfect, so it's said. It might seem that something has changed, something has sped up, a new you has arrived sooner than expected. You do not have to be active in this what appears to be a process. You only have to let your perceptions do their job and celebrate the so-called results.
You do not have to be someone who succeeds, never fails, who is profound, who awes those around you, who is ageless, whose fingers follow orders, who is never in a hurry, who can always pause and step into the great awareness. I do not have to be perfect, for in my humanity, I am here to be imperfect, albeit in a world of pretend. A someone in itself constricts. I do not have to be anything, and it is here that the joy of being expresses as something precious. I only have to let the awareness, the space between the stories and the true essence of being permeate, alive, in utter acceptance, surrender, flow, death as life.
You do not have to be someone. You already are as you are meant to be. You already participate in the family of being, and that is enough. You can never be someone because you already are, just are. Moreover, since there is no one at the heart of awe, you may let go of your opinions, judgments, expectations, and just be or not be without comment. You do not have to be anything. Life will pull through you. You only have to let it happen as it will and cease worrying. It all unfolds regardless of your thoughts and stories. You are the stuff that energy moves through and creates. You are not the creator.
You do not have to become someone special and unique, someone who stands out like a red blip on a gray map. You do not have to have great ambitions and write clever poems or original music. You do not have to become fluent in several languages or go traveling by yourself overseas just because it scares you. You do not have to spend your nights at home in a productive way doing something like reading or Sudoku in order to keep your mind sharp. Heck, if you feel like indulging on some Netflix story on your giant TV screen, go for it. Why not? You do not have to be the person you thought you'd become someday when you were little. You only have to let it happen, just as it does, and exactly in the order that it does. Rich, poor, famous, mediocre, you won't decide. It's just the way it is. It's how the song goes every time, clumsy and confusing as it may feel.
You do not have to be someone, but you get to be. The hard work is already done. Here it is. Now the story is a game. The building up of this and that really just for fun. If not, then for what? Because to contrive an idea about being that is other than what is never makes what is not be. We tell ourselves the story that if we want enough and work enough and sacrifice enough, the what I don't like may become the what I do like. But who wins a tug of war with 8 billion ropes all tugging a common center? You do not have to be, you are. Once trying to change this stops, you are with it. You only have to let perfection exist unjudged. It is already for you. It is waiting for you. See what you will. Grace never tires and is constantly providing all opportunity. Judging it never diminishes it.
You do not have to be someone. You do not have to become someone. You already are everything you need. You, right now, right here, in this moment, have everything, and any seeking or yearning is only going to take you further away from your truth. So stop, sit quietly for a moment, and let the love flow forth. The love for who you are, the one that is whole, is lovable, and the one who feels broken and hated. All stories trying their best to keep you from feeling good. You do not have to be anything at all. You only have to let your mind be still and watch one more breath. Exhale, inhale. Silent, open, full, empty. Just notice and let it be.
You do not have to be someone in your 40s, cereal and milk, a babysitter, garage door, or kernel of corn. It's just not in the cards this time. The something is to behold the world's majesty nakedly. Why do we swim on and on only to find more water, more ancient civilizations, this cup, your grace? When it is time, there is suddenly no time. Words come after, before you can press it to your lips and just dance it all into itself. You do not have to be alone either. Where are the crowds of admirers, the long lines of fans? You only have to soften the barriers between your world and your beautiful, radiant face. I know that look. No holding, no wishing. The relishing lets itself go over and over. An unbreakable strangeness in the mystery of your sweet wooden leg, unmade, safe.
I bow to you all. That was gorgeous. Each and every one, just beautiful. So we're coming up close to the end of our session, which is the end of our season. Who knows, maybe we'll have a season 2. Yeah, it could happen. Let's spend a little bit of time, not a lot of time, I'm looking at the clock, but a little bit of time. If there are comments on what we just read, this experience of this prompt, or on the entire series that we've done here. If you have a comment that you'd like to make, our viewers who are listening in, maybe they would like to hear something of your experience being a participant here in this group. Yeah, Robin, go ahead.
I really enjoyed that prompt. I feel like I could write on that every single day. It's a good reminder. Yeah.
You know, if you take a poem, especially one of these poems that has stood the test of time, but it doesn't have to be, and just, feel the poem, the poet is saying, and then look at a line and just take a line and see where you leap. I'm not saying plagiarize, but to leap, because these are all diving boards. Creative product helps people dive into life.
It's a great idea.
Yeah.
And as far as the process overall, I've really enjoyed doing it day by day rather than spreading it out every week in a kind of retreat-like setting. I would love to do some more of that in that format if you ever want to offer that. It was really a neat way to do it.
Thank you for that. This continues to expand. And this is the first time we have done this. Everybody listening in, this is our first time. And, production is part of it. So just to make this happen, we decided to do it 4 days in a row, whereas usually I'm doing it, once a week with everybody writing every day. So thank you for that. We'll see how it expands from here. Who else would like to speak up? Nirja and then Aaron.
I'm going to agree with Robin on that. I think that the intensity of this daily practice has been a lot more powerful for me than the week. Even though I was writing every day, it's somehow the sharing and the continuity of it. And I love hearing everybody read the same prompt. I mean, to me, that's like just totally amazing, because when everyone's reading a different prompt, you get a sense of them and what they're writing. But when we're all reading from the same starting point, it just shows, I don't know, the vastness and uniqueness and the beauty of us all. So.
Beautifully said. And, for viewers listening in, typically I do like 6 weeks with a group, and we meet once a week. And I give a list of 7 prompts for the week, and then they choose one to read. And that's what Nirja means by all the different ones, And here we're really focused on the one prompt. So this is a good experiment for me to do. Thank you for that, Nirja. And Aaron's next.
I wanted to. I was remembering what Shani brought forward earlier in the meeting when I was doing these writings, and it just occurred to me doing this last writing. I was, from my point of view, the first part was kind of nonsensical. I couldn't really make sense of it with the rational mind, the whole thing pretty much. And it occurred to me that I would like to live this way. Mm-hmm. like make my arm do this and not really know why, and go over here and not really know, and live in this not knowing, because it's just such a fruitful place to be in, and a beautiful place to connect from.
Mm-hmm. Joel has often given the teaching to lie in bed in the morning and just wait to see. Don't make the decision to get up. Wait to see your body get up on its own, and it goes to the bathroom, and and just that's an experiment, just to observe, and you begin to cultivate awareness around your own imposition. You're imposing your will on the natural flow of the body and of life. Michael Singer, I recently heard him. He wrote The Untethered Soul. I heard him in a podcast say, whenever you impose your will on life, you're being in resistance, and you feel offended by life and what it has brought. That's you resisting the flow of all of this. Heart Song, I saw your hand go up.
Yeah, along those lines, it's I often find myself caught up in story about this or that or another thing, but my body is still doing all the things that it needs to do to keep going. It's not like I'm saying, okay, I'm going to do this and this. No, it just happens on its own while my mind is going all over the place. So.
You ever find yourself in the shower? Oh, I'm taking a shower. I was going to take a shower, but you lost the whole going into the shower. It's like you weren't really there. The body was doing it. Yeah.
Exactly that kind of thing.
Good. Anybody else want to speak up? Yeah, Jed, go ahead.
That same thing you're describing used to happen bike riding all the time. Be going north along the beach, and all of a sudden I'd find myself in Huntington Beach, and I'd be like, I don't even remember riding through Newport. The whole town just wasn't even there. Like I was in one place, then I was in another place.
Where were you?
I mean, right, exactly.
How did you miss being there?
But I stopped at the lights, and I didn't get hit by cars, and I stayed upright, and I pedaled, and it all just happens by itself. And it occurs to me, I was raised in a regular kind of conservative Christian church, and I left for a long time and had to be gone for a long time in order to, relearn those things freshly. And a lot of the stories from the Bible that I grew up with mean something so totally different now. And I see the story of like when the devil gets kicked out of heaven for having his own ideas. That's separation. That's the ego. That's the thing that makes the perfection hide, is the idea that you need to fix it or change it.
Yeah.
And so I went, when I think of those stories now, it's just like with the will you're talking about is of the rejection. That's exactly, to me, that's exactly how I read that story in the Bible now of the devil getting kicked out of heaven. It's like, because he wanted it his way. Oh, okay. Well, that's grace is already here. And even Jesus, I think, said, that the kingdom of God is
the kingdom of heaven is spread upon the earth,
but men don't see it.
And women.
People, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
Because they see themselves. They see their own
separation. In the nutshell.
Belief in their own will. Yeah, but when you let go, you see everything's just already happening.
Yeah, and I might say if you find yourself missing the present, like you're driving, this happens to a lot of you, you're driving and then, you go into a brainwave, you're dreaming and thinking about this. It can be dangerous, actually. And then you're across town. How did I get here? I wasn't even present my body's just driving, like the horse going back to the barn. One thing you can do to cultivate awareness to the moment is to meditate on the sensations of the body. Of course, that's true. My Vipassana teacher, Ruth Dennison, taught me so much about that. But she also gave me a mantra that has been so handy if I feel myself not being in the present. And it goes, breathing in, breathing out, in awareness, knowing it. So if you have that flowing through you, any moment you feel like I'm just not here, my mind, try to come back to center with that mantra or something like that. Can be very helpful. Maybe you're suddenly in a stressful situation. What if, right at that moment, breathing in, breathing out, in awareness, knowing it, that's an important part. Know it, that you're there. Hands on the steering wheel, feeling the hand, the sensations of seeing, hearing, tasting, touching, and feeling. Bring us back to center. Anybody else have a comment? It's been my complete delight. It truly has. This has been so delightful. I can't express that more. I mean, I look at my image there on the screen. I see this very happy face, and this is authentic. I mean, I'm not making that up. It's just an outpouring that feels so lovely. And I'm happy that Joel Morwood of the Center for Sacred Sciences in Eugene, Oregon, lit a fire under me to start bringing these teachings, this method of using creative writing to illuminate the story of I, and thereby begin to loosen the grip on that story, to bring it to the public. This is our first attempt to do that. So I thank Joel. I thank the center board and the community for supporting this endeavor, because it takes something to put this all together and to make it happen. I want to thank myself for being a clear channel. I mean, oh, she's so arrogant, thanking herself. I think I'm just thankful. Why can't I have some too? I thank you, thank you, thank you. And thank you to my participants here, the 8 of you. You've been so brave. Everyone that I asked said yes to this project. No one said no, it's not for me. I didn't have to talk anyone into it. Everyone was willing to come right forward and try this, knowing that you might be put on the spot. Well, Erin, I don't know if you knew, but maybe you knew. And Wayne, this was your first time, so you didn't really know how much I would put you on the spot. And I want to thank all the viewers that are tuning in here. You are our invisible audience, but I have sensed you here. I've spoken to you as though you're sitting right in front of me. We welcome you. And I'm hoping that maybe something here touched you. And if you have questions or comments, please feel free to contact me. So unless anyone else has a comment, I will bring this session to a close. We're all good? Okay. So what I'd like to do is a synchronized bow, and then I will ring the bell. I'd like to just have a moment of quiet and silence, just a moment. Then I'll ring the bell again, and we will finish our session and finish our series. So this will be the end of one thing, the door opens to something else. So for this bow, let's start to bring one hand very slowly into the screen. It doesn't actually matter which one, but I can never tell my right from my left. It's my right hand, might be your left hand. And this is only if you don't have any kind of shoulder issue or and then the other hand is coming palm up from the bottom. Like I'm holding a basketball or a gazing globe or something. And I'm going to turn that ball around, all the way around. And then I'm going to come back to facing each other. And very slowly, very slowly, we're thanking our teachers. I'm thanking Ruth Dennison. I'm thanking Joel Morwood. Many, many, many other teachers who have touched me. And teachings. Thank you. Endless bow. Joel likes to say peace to you all as a send-off, and I would like to say go as nothing. Thank you, everyone, for joining us in this writing workshop series. If you followed along with the prompts, I would certainly like to hear about your experience. You can easily contact me at marysong@centerforsacredsciences.org. This has been a labor of love, by the way, and I have great admiration for the participants who were so generous with their time and brave in their writing. To them, I say thank you, and to all I say, may we meet again.